All right. Welcome to the show. Fired up for this one today. My friend, my modern day night brother, Noah Valinsky, joins me today. He's the co-owner of Kloa Movement. He's an actor, choreographer, professional dancer, an all-around good dude. And he's with me today to talk about life, what motivates him, and how this whole dance thing happened and more. Noah, welcome, my man, to the Jake Blanchard podcast.
Ooh, I'm excited to be here. Let's do this.
Dude, I'm so, you're one of those guys that I've been meaning to ask to come onto the podcast since like last August when we met. And then I saw you in Vegas a couple of weeks ago and I was like, hey, why haven't you come on the podcast yet? And you're like, well, why haven't you asked me? And I'm like, well, come on, man. So I'm glad we made this happen here, pretty close to after seeing each other in Vegas a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, paintball, steaks. It's funny. We showed up to Las Vegas with like 60 dudes that all former graduates of the Modern Day Night Project. And it's funny. You'd think 60 dudes showing up at a hotel would be kind of like a riot or a ruckus, but I think for the most part, everybody was in bed by like 9:30, up at the gym at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And, it made me laugh, but also made me pretty proud to be a part of that group that we're in.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was cool when we were all suited up, and then it was just like everybody was the way they were looking, and men too, like they were looking at us and they were like, what is this? It's like, yeah, this feels fucking good.
Yeah, man, it's a nice little 2-day boondoggle, but at the same time, get to work on your business, get to work on your life, get to see good friends, man, and catch up with what they're up to. What are you up to, man? What are you doing right now?
Right now, physically?
Yeah.
On a podcast. No.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Be where your feet are. But I mean in life, man, it's May, it's 2022. I know that when you and I were talking, you were doing some auditions, you got a bunch of stuff going on. Like what's top of mind for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now I've got auditions kind of moving back and forth. I'm trying to like hone in on trying to make the entertainment industry a little bit easier to navigate, as opposed to, oh, hopefully I get a job today, or hopefully this is there's an audition. Like there's no real control in it. So I'm trying to figure out different ways to make that more of a thing. So when you're like, okay, I haven't been auditioning, or if I haven't been working, how is there a way that you can get out there to get those auditions and to get those jobs and to be seen a little bit more by using things that everybody uses, kind of entrepreneurs use in business today. So it's like trying to bridge that gap is like a weird thing, because like COVID hit, and then work has just been like this weird roller coaster that I've been on. And so, I don't want that to ever happen again. So trying to figure that out is like my main concern.
Yeah. And maybe educate the layman here. So like, how does that process work? I mean, being you're auditioning for various roles, whether it be in acting or to support dance, or I don't know shit. So like, you're gonna have to help educate me on like how do you find out about these things? How do you show up? What's that process like?
So the process is pretty standard, and it goes like this. You have an agent, right? And then you have different websites, casting websites, that you have your headshots on, you have your information, you have what jobs you've done, which is your resume, obviously. You have your special skills, what roles you're willing to play, kind of like you are on this page and you are this page. And then so there's this job that comes up that says, I don't know, let's say Petco is looking for a dog owner, and
God, you
they
make
say
a great
to all
dog
these
owner. Shout out to Petco.
Right. I some of the auditions are funny. They'll be like, unless you're a real dog owner and have a real dog, don't show up. You know what I mean? Like people will be like, let me borrow John's dog. But and then so the agencies kind of push this narrative of what they're looking for, of what they figured out for this commercial, to these agencies. And the agencies are saying, okay, here's the people I have, and they just dump people. And then they come back and go, okay, we want to see him, her, him, whatever. And then each agency that is around is doing that. So you're getting probably thousands of people seen. So then you get the audition if they want to see you. And then they give you, a lot of times now everything's kind of online. So they just kind of say, this is the script. They want you to slate, which is basically saying your name, showing your profiles side to side.
There you go.
To look like
I said, there you go.
And then you do the audition, basically saying you act out the actions or the script, you read that and you go over it a couple times. Then if they really like you, they do a thing called a callback. And so you either come in or they can do it online as well. And that's when all the directors, the casting, all the, the big wigs that are shooting this commercial want to see you in person. And then from that moment, if they like you, you can be put on hold for the dates that are going to be shot for the commercial. And then they call you and say you booked a job, or they release you off hold.
Oh, wow.
And so this whole process is kind of game of, hey man, hopefully it works out. Because you could be the best in that audition, and it doesn't matter because you didn't have the hair they were looking for.
Yeah.
So it's super, I guess it's super superficial if you look at it that way. You know what I mean?
But I think it's timing, right? A lot of it's timing. A lot of it's just having a look that people are looking for. It's being in the right place at the right time,
right,
for sure.
All the things that have been said, who you know, who you don't know, it's all a cumulative thing.
Yeah.
To where, like, are you getting a job, as opposed to being like, oh, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I can guarantee myself a job every time.
Well, so like what brought you to this space? Like, what is that like, that arc of life that made you say, I want to be an actor, I want to be a dancer, I want to be like all the things that you are today? Like what catalyzed that?
I pretty much didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Right. So growing up, I used to go to this roller rink and I used to roller skate. And then, like, all the dancing on the quads and all that crazy stuff.
So not blades, skates.
I used to blade too. I
Okay.
bladed, and then I had my blades, and then there was a fight at the roller rink, and I hid them under a bush, and somebody stole them.
Oh shit.
And then, so then after that, my friends were like, "You just need to get quads," and I was like, "All right, fine, whatever." And then I did that, and then one of those guys was like, "You need to go to the club," and I'm like, "I'm not going to the club. I love roller skating." They were like, "There's girls there," and I was like, "Let's go."
Wow, they twisted your arm on that one.
Yeah, it was a really hard choice. And then from there I learned how to dance. And then I used to just kind of battle people at that club or at different clubs, and kind of run that route. And then one day Pink came to the club that I used to frequent. And
Oh,
what
like
ended up being,
the singer.
yeah, Pink.
Yeah,
Her,
Pink.
and then
Okay.
Christina Aguilera and a couple other people ran through this club when they were like
Where
at the beginning
where is
stages.
this geographically? Is this in LA?
No, it was a suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
So it was yeah, the club's no longer around anymore. Sad. No, but it basically, she came, I got a number for one of the dancers because I was like, how do you do what you're doing? Like, that's pretty dope, you know? And then cut to years later, I ended up moving to LA. And then I called this number. I'm like, oh shit, like I have this number. It's the same number that I'm in right now in LA. I go, this is fucking weird. And then it was an agency, and then there was a big audition, and I made it. And it kind of started the career. And there's been, like, I stopped dancing for a while. I stopped doing things, but like I was never really happy doing anything else, especially working for somebody else. I had a really hard time doing that.
Yeah. What were some of the jobs that you did?
I have done everything. I used to install satellite dishes for like Dish TV.
Okay.
I've done flooring. I did painting for a while. I was a maintenance guy at a school
Yeah.
for like a small period of time. I worked at T-Mobile for years. I worked as a production assistant for some of the original Bachelor and Bachelorette TV shows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then I moved up in there in that company. And then I was a camera assistant for a while. I was a production manager for a small bit. And then I moved to this company called Wexler, who rented out all the equipment for editing bays for TV and film. And I would set those up and break those down and deliver them. And then they wanted me to be junior tech. And I was like, no, I want to dance. And then that didn't happen. I just didn't want to work 12-hour days. And then I ended up like being a club promoter in Hollywood.
Yeah. So you just had a variety of different careers and things that you were trying out doing, and a lot of it maybe based off of like just convenience or what was available at the time, so you could find time to move your body outside of it. Or were you dancing a lot during this time?
It was like going through mental stuff of like, you grow up and you're like, you want to be something, and then it's like you want to be a dancer and you're like a dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like a masculine dude, and then it's like you have to do things, and you decide if you're okay with them, and they're not that big of a deal, but it's like you go through all this stuff, and then everybody's judging you, so it's like it's a lot, especially when you grow up like not having anybody or anything to kind of like fall back on. So it's like you're trying to figure this world out on your own. And it's weird because dance seems like not a big deal, or acting, but it's very vulnerable. So it's like you got to be able to give all that. So in being scared, you don't do it, and then you go do another job, and then it's just kind of, that was like my thing. May not happen with everybody, but that's kind of what I went through.
Is there a for like, because you didn't go to like dance school, do you need to go to dance school? Like, what's what is there available as far as like understanding what is standard practice, or did you just kind of like watch stuff online and be like, this is what I do?
Like I started like just doing dance stuff with like and routines with friends, but like you a lot of people are super trained in dance and it's beautiful. They train in ballet, jazz, tap, like my wife is. She's super trained, and I've learned amazing things from her, that it was like I had talent but no structure. So the more jobs you do, you kind of just pick up on structure and hopefully you figure it out. Or as opposed to a trained dancer, they just get it and they crush it. You know what I mean? They just understand the weight changes, where you're supposed to be, kind of not worrying about a lot of things because you're sitting there going, "Oh, I've trained for this." Like
Yeah.
kind of how you train in jujitsu. It's like if there was a street fight, you'd be like, no big deal. But if you didn't train in jujitsu, you're pretty tough individual. You would have been just fine, but you'd have to wing it most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Until you got into a bunch of fights where you were like, I got this. It's
Yeah.
like pretty much a good explanation of like street dance versus being trained.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. And like, let's talk about your lovely wife for a minute, Claude. I absolutely adore your wife. She's amazing as a human. I've had a chance to meet her a few times and chat with her a little bit. You guys have quite the following on TikTok, and you guys are always putting out content together. It's a beautiful thing. I love what you guys are up to. How'd you guys meet? And then it's like kind of a beautiful story of like blending styles of dance and then creating businesses together. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
So it's crazy how we met. Like, we literally met on a job way before, like years before we actually met again. And I had this like picture with her that I always kept. It's super random,
What was
right?
the job?
It was a flash mob, and we were all in Victorian getup, like super costume-esque, like the whole party was, and it was for like this crazy millionaire. And we just did this whole like, to come out, we do this dance on the staircase, and it was like everybody's beautiful, and it was huge. And and then there was like a picture booth, and there was just like, there's all these little things there at this guy's backyard. That's really what it was. So we met there, and then years later, I saw her again at some dance event, and I was like, man, this girl can really walk in heels, which is like a huge turn on for me. So I was like, I gotta go talk to her. And then as I started talking to her, I'm like, hey, we did this job together. Meanwhile, I didn't have a beard at that time, and my beard this time was like halfway down my chest. It's
Mm.
huge.
Yeah, and
And
I preparing for this, I actually looked some photos up of you online from like 2013 with no beard, and I got to say, I like the beard now.
it just looks weird, doesn't it?
It
When you
looks
know me,
weird,
it's like,
brother. You don't
this
look
is
like you.
it doesn't look like me, but like if you didn't know me before the beard, you'd be like, this is exactly Noah. Like it's
Yeah.
so, I look at it, it doesn't look like me. I'm like, who is this jerk? Like, but no, we met there, and then we've had like a real interesting like kind of bringing together. But Claude actually started us working together. So she had a job she was choreographing for, and then it was like this young boy, and he was doing hip hop, and she was like, just come with me and help me. I was like, okay, I guess. I've never choreographed before. I didn't think I could. And so mainly I just came up with some creativity stuff, and she structured it because she's so talented in that area of structure and choreography and training, that she just takes whatever the mess I make and she makes it into this beautiful picture. So she basically did that, and we were like, we can do this. And I just like being around her so much, and I have so much fun with her, that even if we're like having an argument, I'm like, I just want to be around Claude. I don't know what that is.
that's
So like,
that's a beautiful thing, man. That's such a beautiful thing. And I love the humility in some of this as well, where it's like, hey, like I've got this style that's mine. Here's this person who's classically trained, if I'm right, right?
yeah,
Claude has spent years and years classically trained in a couple styles of dance.
yeah,
She's been choreographing being a choreographer? How
Choreographing.
she's been choreographing dancing for quite some time now. And so you just kind of, fit into that world with your creative expression as well.
Yeah, it's super. What was that movie, Claude?
Save the Last Dance.
It's super Save the Last Dance.
Oh,
it's
there you
like
go.
the trained girl meets the street kid, and it's literally that. Like I grew up being a piece of shit. She grew up like not being a piece of shit and kind of being a little bit of a nerd. So it's like you get these two worlds of she structures me in this really huge way where I'm wild. And then I look at her structure and I go, you could give in this area and it's beautiful. So it's super complimentary. Is that
Yeah.
right?
No, it's way better than the words that I've been picking.
Yeah. I feel like anything I say after that is we're fine. So I appreciate it. But no, like, we ebb and flow really well, which we're lucky. I feel like if she was wild and crazy and I was wild and crazy, I don't know if it would work as well.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, that totally makes sense, man. And the other thing that I thought was funny after we met for the first time in August of last year, so we're getting close to about a year of knowing each other. And I came back, and obviously you got some photos. You post some photos online, things like that, from when you're hanging out with people. And I had a friend of mine. She goes, I think I know who that guy is. I'm like, oh, really? From what? She goes, I think he's in Beachbody stuff. And I was like, what? And she's like, I can't remember. He's like he's got some kind of a dessert name. I started laughing. So obviously our really good friend Nikki, who was talking about this. But how'd you get into the Beachbody world? You're doing that for a while, were you? You still do that?
No. Because we gotta get called to do that, or I do. So basically, literally, when you audition, like I explained the process, you audition for everything: commercials, movies, any kind of flash mob show, fitness stuff, New Year's Eve in Vegas, like, God, some stuff you're just like, you could even be an atmospherical looking person and just that's your job, and you get paid $500 for the night.
Oh, you just to look like you should be there.
Yeah, like anything. So like I auditioned for it. They were like, they wanted dancers to audition for Beachbody because we know how to move. So explaining the movements in real time while we're shooting, we do this a little bit better as opposed to somebody who doesn't, and they're like, oh, my left foot, and then it just fucks up.
I get it now. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like even some of the moves I didn't know and didn't remember, but because I could watch the trainer's body and go, okay, she's about to move left. Bam. And then I'll like, all right, cool. So then I'll be a little bit ahead of the curve. So a normal person wouldn't really be able to tell that.
You're like a dance panther.
Something. I feel like, I've just winged it so much of my entire life that I've professionally figured out a way how to just not know what I'm doing, look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what a dancer is.
No. Well, 100%, man.
I'm just kidding. That's like how I started doing shit. But like, no, so it was that. And then what happened was I have a cupcake tattoo on my ankle. And one of the guys called me Cupcake on screen. And I was like, bro, I remember my beard was huge and I was like muscular and like, I had no idea how to do these movements. It was plyo and I've never done it. I've just lifted. So I'm dying. I am dying. And I'm like making fun of it. They're like, you can say whatever you want. And I was like, cool. And then I was just being funny. And then everybody was like, this kid, Cupcake, is hilarious. And so I became this character. And then throughout Beachbody, I've done like, I don't know, almost 10 jobs with them or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And so if you Google Cupcake on Beachbody, like my stupid face will show up.
That's awesome, man. I love that though, because like, the thing that I really didn't contemplate much is that it's not like of course you could take the perspective of really kind of like picking and choosing the types of jobs that you want to do, but when you're open to work and you're just excited to take on different experiences and play in different worlds and see what clicks and what connects, like that opens up a world of possibilities, my man. What other kinds of things have you done similar to that Beachbody experience?
I mean, as far as entertainment work?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, man, I did this one H&R Block commercial and it was crazy. And it's the reason why I bring this one up is because it was really cool. Yeah. And I had to be so basically I had to be a George Washington. we all had to be George Washington. So we had the wig, we had the getup, and then, you know what I mean, the socks, the shoes, like the pants, like everything. And there was like maybe 10 or so of us, but we filmed it in an airport hangar. And then so there were all these little marks along the whole floor of the hangar. And we actually moved our routine specifically to these different marks, because in editing, what happens is it blows it up, and now everybody is on those marks. So instead of hiring everybody to fill the hangar, you only need 10 or 15 on these specific marks, and then you move them, and then you just enhance it in editing, and then you get a bunch of George Washington dancing.
Yeah.
So it was like this crazy thing. We filmed at an airport hangar, and it was like this gnarly choreography. It was badass. It was a cool commercial.
Dude, I love that, man.
Yeah. And then there's this one I did for Target with Gwen Stefani. It was the first commercial live music video. Like, it was everything rolled into one, but it was live. Like, we shot it one shot, one take. Whoa. Right? Believe that. So what it was she started in one area and moved around a circle until she came to the center, like Target.
Yeah.
And so when you came up and you looked down, it was the whole Target symbol, and it was everybody who had and I was roller skating in it, and it was just like cool thing. And then in the video, we prepared for her to quote unquote fall. And so when you're watching it live, you think she fell. And so we all did this crazy stunt fall and everything, roller skating, and then she turns up in this beautiful dress and like comes out the middle of like this Target symbol, and then you look above and it's like epic. It was really cool. It's really cool. And all the moving parts were crazy, watching different walls come up, and then people running, changing, and then this person going this way. And you're sitting there like, all I gotta do is skate in like 2 minutes.
Dude, yeah, it's, it's so funny, like all the work that goes into like advertising for like certain companies, because it's like when I go into Target, it's just like I'm gonna stand here for 20 minutes and then find my wife if she gets lost, and then maybe buy a Snickers bar at checkout. But like there's a whole world around like a lifestyle and a brand and people sitting around in a room saying, hey, let's make it all go to the center, and then we'll fall, and then people on roller skates will pick people up and they'll change clothes. Like it's incredible, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't really think about it in my little world, man.
It's really a lot. Like, you think when you're a kid, and this actually made me kind of happy right now, just thinking of this, when you have this imagination.
Yeah.
And then you just get to make that imagination real. And how cool is that? You know what I mean? And then you get to be a part of that, which is even cooler. So creating something is beautiful because you get to be a kid again. It's almost like you just get to be a kid the whole time. And it's stressful because you're an adult and you go through problems, and this guy wasn't here on time and all that other crap, you know what I mean, that you could deal with as an adult, or he didn't show up and wham, my foot hurts or whatever. But like when it's all said and done, it's fucking cool, man. Yeah. It's really cool. And it's a lot.
Well, you've got a beautiful perspective around this, and you said something earlier that I kind of took tongue in cheek, but I just want to go reflect back on it when you were talking about you and Claude, and you were talking about, you're like, I was a piece of shit when I was growing up, and she's a lot more centered. Like, you do have an appreciation, like in this kind of like joy, as if you have lived in a way that was not joyous at some point in time. And I wonder, what could you share about that perspective, or some of the things that you encountered that shaped that perspective that you have today?
I guess like it takes a lot of looking back sometimes, like after you kind of figure it out, right? Yeah. So I don't know, there's like so many things I could say about that. I just lived a certain way where like my parents, it's like I'll say things and then Claude will be like, that's not how it's supposed to be when you grow up. And I was like, it feels pretty normal to me. And she's like, that's fucked up. Like, it's not normal at all. And your parents should have been there a lot more than they were. And, my parents kept me alive, and there was 5 of us. So, I can't fully just shun people that, have done something like that. But I was pretty much left to do what I wanted almost at a young age of like 12 and before that. And like, then I just kind of got into trouble and just kind of did whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And I got involved with gangs early on and did dumb shit there. And you know, got arrested a bunch. And that's why I moved to LA, because I was like either going to end up like in jail or fucking in a ditch somewhere or something stupid, you know, because I didn't know what right choices to make.
You are a young man at an age of a rite of passage, and you were looking for community.
Yeah.
Right?
That's,
I mean,
that's a less shittier way to say it. Like, you know what just happened there? I said something really fucked up and you made it beautiful. That's my relationship with Claude. It's like, I just say the fucked up thing. And she goes, actually, it's more like this. And I go, yeah, that's right. I'm the poop that helps the flower grow. You're the flower. Fuck it.
Beautiful. I'm the poop that helps the flower grow. You're the flower, man. So how old were you when you got out to LA?
I moved when I was 17.
Okay.
So, and I was just about to turn 18 in like a month.
Okay.
September 11th or at 9th, I moved. September 9th, I moved. So when September 11th happened, it was weird.
Yeah.
So, then that was then, and then I fucked around for a lot of bit out there. And then I kind of found my way to, believe it or not, I really found my way like when I met Claude. Like I had gotten into a really gnarly DUI, right? I was like, screw it. I had a bad relationship, you know, like with a girl, and you know, I took it as hard as I took it, and I was drinking a lot, and I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna take this car. I'm gonna ride up this canyon. It's just a two-way canyon, and I'm just gonna fucking go balls to the wall, go in between cars, and I didn't give a shit. And I passed out and fucking nailed this GMC, and the wheel fell off the BMW I was driving. It was a brand new BMW, so it was like, you know, decently put together car, and just ripped the wheel off. The guy was safe. I went to jail. I was like, man, this is just life happening all over again from back in the day. And I was like, I got to figure out a way. So I just did a bunch of self work and did a bunch of things and figured it out. Met Claude, and then it just kind of started to go up from there. You know what I mean? I started to realize it's okay to do this, or okay to be myself, and you know, just finding different things and becoming a better person, and then using that stuff to go, man, that stuff happened to me. I'm not going to act like it didn't. And then just help others and just trying to be a better person because of that situation. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to fall into the negative that you once were. You know what I mean? You have to confront your problem. You have to look at it. You have to say this happened and be grateful for it. If you're not, you're just lying to yourself, and then you're going to go back down.
You know, I'm fascinated with what I call the point of first reflection, right? There's always a point in time when you've gone down a different path, or you're consciously aware that you're making positive change, that you feel like you are on the right trajectory. It usually is several months after you've fucked up royally or done something wrong, where the dust is starting to settle. You start to see the light at some tunnel. You're like, if I just keep walking in this direction, things are going to be good. Look how far I've come already. Do you remember a point of first reflection as you were kind of changing paths here? Like feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling less impulsive?
Like where I literally was like, okay, like I've kind of like fixed the stuff, and I'm good where I'm at. Yeah, there was a moment when I learned about ethics, right? And this is what I'll always explain. You know those, and this is once again how my head works. You know those draw by numbers, like when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like number one is green, and then you just do all the green ones. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, or like if you just drew the outline of it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you knew it was like a dinosaur, right? Or like whatever. I always have a T-Rex in my head. That's the picture I have. So there's like T-Rex, it's like numbers. So the numbers look all crazy. It looks wild. And you're like, how do I draw this? This doesn't make any sense. And then you start from one, and then you go, and then eventually you have this outline. So before, I didn't have an outline of life, of ethics and morals, and where to go and where to be. Once I learned that, I go, oh, these things are not okay to do. This is not a way to be. People don't actually act like this. The people that you were hanging around do, but that doesn't mean it's right. Like, really kind of found a guide for myself. So I drew that line. I said, boom, it's a dinosaur. I know what it is now. I can color it whatever fucking color I want to. And then that's what I did. And then I started coloring it, you know, metaphorically in my life, like this picture that I wanted. And the more I learned, the better that picture got and the clearer it got. And that's really kind of what happened to me.
That's a beautiful thing, man. So
wow, I really said that fucking Nice.
That was good, man.
I'm so impressed with myself.
I'm impressed too, man. I'm just sitting here thinking about that dinosaur, bro. You got me fired up today.
Like, I was not ready. I was like, for 1 second, I was the flower. I liked it.
Dude, you blacked out. You blacked
I
out.
blacked out. What
and
happened?
you bloomed.
It was that one flower from Dennis the Menace. Do you remember that movie when you were kids? Like, the live one, where it's like that flower blooms once and then it dies.
Yeah. That's what do they call those in Hawaii? They call them howley hibiscus, right? The flowers that bloom every day.
Yeah.
And then they fall off. That's why that word. This is what I've heard, that the word howley used for white people who go to the island is because the flower starts off at like a kind of a whitish yellow color. And then by the end of the day, it turns red and then falls off. So it's getting sunburned. But I don't know if that's true. But I was told that on a kayaking expedition once when I was in Kauai. I said expedition. It was like a tour. It was I wasn't climbing Everest.
Expedition sounds way better because it's not a lie. You know what I mean? It's truth and definition. But sure. I mean, from now on, that's what's going to be. I think that's the best word for white people that get burnt.
It's a howley. Yeah. You said something pretty profound there and I just want to kind of take us back to the thought of like ethics, and like having a moral compass, and in the Modern Day Night Project, we have a creed, right? I mean, it's those anchoring beliefs that are your minimum operating system for how you approach life and how you treat others and what you expect out of others. It's interesting when you come across people, when you've decided to at least have some kind of ethical code and you come across people who do not. I imagine because you've been on the other side of that, you feel almost burdened with trying to help or explain, or like maybe take me through your perspective here.
So there's a lot that goes on with me personally. Like it was a hard thing for me to deal with once I found and being able to stand up for myself with my code in front of the people whose code it wasn't. So a lot of the times I had in the beginning, and especially now, sometimes still, I have to make the mistake. And it's a beautiful mistake because I go, I'll never do that again and I'll learn and everything. So one thing that happened to me was like, I made this sweater that said anti-side chick husbands club, and then rivaled the anti-social club.
Yeah.
And I made that because of exactly what you're saying. I would literally, like, I love my wife. I got a hot wife. Like, I'm not unhappy. I was always afraid to be in a bad marriage. And maybe that's from growing up or whatever. And so I didn't want to be married and be like, I hate my wife, or talking with these guys about like, yeah, that chick's hot. Look at her ass. Like, yeah, chicks are hot. Chicks got sweet asses and boobs and faces and feet.
I agree with all this stuff. Yeah.
Right. Who gives a shit? Right. The point is like, I want to be happy with who I'm with. I don't want this problem. And then I was having a hard time looking at somebody and them going, yeah, like, oh yeah. Then they look at me and like, yeah, this chick. And I'm like, yeah, she's cool. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care. So I was like, oh man, like somebody that looks like me doesn't necessarily look like a nice husband or a nice guy. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, let's make this photo shoot with this shirt and this hoodie that basically is like, and then also it helped me kind of push the narrative of being a good man.
Yeah.
And wanting to be that thing that we're talking about in front of other people that weren't. And I think it happens to do with people that just don't have the balls, and it's just they're scared. And
I think a lot of people are self-conscious. They feel like anytime that they're being, I don't want to say preached to, but anytime somebody brings an idea of morality or an idea of, in this case, hey, anti-side chick, what is it? Social club or
husband's club?
Husband's club. So it's like, hey, I'm part of a group, a husband's club of dudes who don't have side chick. Of course, like, doesn't every woman who gets married wouldn't that be a thing that they want? Right. I think what it creates though is are you saying you're better than me? Oh, you're infallible. Like, that's exactly where people go. And I think that's the toxicity of our minds today in the world that we live in today, is because we're always looking for the mighty or the higher than thou to fall.
Right.
Instead of giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And it happens because of insecurity, but it's like how we were raised and what we saw and what we're used to. And also being able to rise above that and be a better person or a better man. And like in society with men today, it's not easy to fucking do. And because you're looked at like a bitch or you're a pussy or this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, well, if you're an entrepreneur and you're making a bunch of money and you're providing for your family and you don't go out to that event and drink and your friend says you're a pussy, but that friend doesn't have a job, just decides to drink, you're like, okay, what's more pussy? You know what I'm saying? What's more negative in your life? You just can't look at it and go, man, I messed up. This person's got it going on, or they figured it out. And then so it's like that insecurity that kind of shines and says, and then it becomes a responsibility point. They can't be responsible for their irresponsibility. And then so they push it. And
yeah, and it's that's kind of when the patients run the asylum, right? When the words have flipped around in the favor of the people who have enough time to contemplate it all day, every day, and mask their insecurities onto popular culture. And we see a lot of that, man. Scary. If you're a father, you're a father, my brother. You've got your son's what, 3?
He's almost 2.5.
Almost 2.5. Gotta ask, man. I love having fathers on the show. I'm a proud father myself. My son is 8, daughter 6. How has the experience of fatherhood changed you?
Well, right now, it's not easy. He's 2 and he's like, you'll hold his water bottle for him and he's like, that's mine. And I'm like, all right, you're right. Sorry.
My bad, bro.
Yeah, sorry, bro. But that's his voice, and he has to learn that. But man, it's I was thinking about this the other day. This is great that you asked this. Let me try to remember this. I think I might have another flower moment.
There you go.
So, basically, I've always been this person that has given so much more than people need or deserve and tried to help. It was like I was trying to always save somebody or something, right? And yesterday I was feeling like shit. I felt like I got like food poisoning or something. And I was just trying to maintain the day. And then Claude and Nova are outside playing. And I'm like, I'm gonna go out there. I'm like, well, they both need water. Claude probably needs her phone. Like, let's, and I'm grabbing water and I feel like shit. And I just want to fucking lay down. I don't even want to grab water. And I go, man, all these things I used to do to my energy, that love to push toward people to save them, quote unquote, is something that I've always had, which is a superpower, but it wasn't for them. It was for my wife and my son. And once it's like I figured out that I was able to use, that's what it really was. It's been the best thing. I love being a father. I love being a husband. Like, I just love this family. And I think it had made me more of like, I need to focus on that. And it really helped me because I was kind of mentally all over the place, because that's what my life had been in the past. So it really helped me like ground me and narrow down and figure out what's really important to me and like who I am, and change that as well. So it's a fucking cool thing, man. I think fatherhood is the greatest thing in the entire world.
Yeah, I love the perspective you have. It took me a while to get that perspective. To be completely honest, man, I struggled the first 2 years when my son was born. I struggled pretty bad, actually. I've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, but just kind of hitting the waves again. I was traveling as a consultant. I was flying to LA every week in 2013 when my son was born, and my wife was basically mostly alone during her pregnancy because I was in LA Monday through Thursday night every single week, and then would come home Friday, would work from home most of Friday, see her Saturday, and then fly out Sunday again. And so I did that. I took 4 days off after my son was born. I just went back to work, just got on the plane and just kept going. And I saw him for 70 days or so, his first year. And that was a choice. You know what I mean? Like, when I look back at me and I look back at my life, I probably could have advocated for myself a little bit more. Now, remote working wasn't as prevalent. I was a traveling contractor. I was a consultant. I didn't have, all these health benefits and paternity leave and some of these types of things. But I could have made space. I could have made room, and I didn't. And then the guilt that I felt when I ended my contract finally with 9 months left on a contract that I could have kept doing, dude, it was a lot of guilt, man. And I had to find ways to like reconnect and figure myself out. And it catalyzed a lot of personal growth for me, a lot of introspection that I had not historically done. But to hear you have a perspective early on in fatherhood of like playing full out for it and like really wanting to get the most out of it when your kid's 2.5. I can't lie, man. I'm a little jealous.
Well, you got to remember that I had a shitty childhood, right?
Yeah.
I just looked at this dude and I was like, there's no fucking way, man, that he's going to feel anything I felt. And if that meant sacrificing myself, fine. I've sacrificed myself for dumber shit. Like, you know,
Dude,
and
I've sacrificed myself for dumber shit. I absolutely love that.
like, I really have, man. And if I look at my life, like I've just sacrificed myself for some dumber shit. I really have. And like, Claude didn't have it easy, and it was my job to fucking stand up, regardless if I liked it or not. I was fucking tired all the time. I walked 2.5 miles with him every morning so that she could sleep, and then just get a coffee. And I'm like sitting there while he's crying, changing a diaper, like in the middle of like, is this milk warm? Like fucking freaking out. And like, I just was like, you know what? I partied for all those fucking years. I stayed up. I did all this shit. I go, I can handle the fucking child. Like I could do this, like, and especially if it's so that Chloe can have a better time. Like my fucking everything that shitty that happened to me was like helped me kind of like, you know, when you're in the project and and like they have this moment where you go, what is your superpower? It's all the negative shit you've been able to handle, and then you turn it around. Like it was a moment for me. So it was almost like I didn't have a choice. And it was like, it's go time, motherfucker. What are you gonna do? And I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking bitch out.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I love the fact that you're like, I've stayed up and I partied and I did the thing. I can't stay up right now. I can't, this isn't a party. I can't make this a party. Like what? Like
I have trained for this.
I have trained for this, man. I spent all the years fist pumping and popping and locking for this shit today.
Like I've been up for this shit and putting out energy doing the dance club and doing dumbass shit. Like, and Claude has always slept and had it nice. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, guess what? It's time to work.
Yeah.
Shit. But like, you know, that was it. And then plus we had our son over COVID. So everything locked down and it got weird. So there was nothing that we could do but be there.
Yeah.
Like fully, you know?
Love it.
So,
I love it.
You know, I don't know how it would have been if I had a traveling job.
Oh my God,
And
I would have died.
I could hear her in the background. Oh my God, I would have died. That's a good man right there. Shout out to Claude too, by the way. She's amazing. I got to have her on the podcast on a separate episode for sure. I absolutely adore her.
That would be great. She's got, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like an even better story than mine, but
yeah,
mine's just a little longer.
Oh, for sure. So, you know, going back, we talked a little bit about the project. Like, what was your why for going to the project? How'd you hear about that crazy thing? And what brought you to it?
So I really love watching prison shows on YouTube, like inside the prison.
Oh, dude, that's my shit too. Dude, I love Scared Straight. I love Inside the Prisons. All that shit. That Tom Segura joke, that "hold my pocket" joke is one of the funniest things on the planet. I've watched that episode.
Yeah, it's great because then you learn all this lingo and these different things, and like anybody like that is ghetto like talks to you, you're like, no, I fucking know what you're talking about.
Or world's scariest like international prisons.
No, those are gnarly.
Those are gnarly. They're like, hey, we're in, you know, whatever South American country, and they're like, there's really no guards here. They're just kind of walls and guys on the outside, and they have their own systems, and you're like, what? And
they can break out anytime, but they don't. And you're like, I don't understand what's happening. It was like criminal code of ethics. That
dude, sidebar here. There was one that I watched, and I sat there in disbelief because there was like a conjugal visits like once a month on like Wednesdays. And all the guys would like take their mattresses, and then they would like walk down to this like one place, and then they would get their visit, and then they would like grab their mattresses and then like walk back to their bunks. And I'm like, what is going on in these places?
You know, it's crazy. Sometimes they have their families live there.
I haven't seen that one yet. I got to get better at searching Netflix.
I mean, like, this is YouTube. You got to go on YouTube to find these. This was like inside the prison, because we don't happen is I had another small sidebar, and then we'll get back to the project. Before I lived here, we moved out of our place during COVID into a friend's like back house because, we were saving rent and all that other crap. And then I used to have to do the dishes because there were no dishwasher. So a ton of dishes, you're like sitting there. So I'm like, oh my God. So what I would do is I would put YouTube on, put a prison show, and I would just do dishes forever, dry them, everything, and then I'd watch the show. And the next time I came back to do dishes, I would finish the show. So right?
Yeah.
So that was my thing. So I saw it on YouTube and I was like, I saw the project and I was like, oh man, like I really wanted to see. It looked like it was just like 75 hours. Like,
oh, you saw an ad for it? Like it just like popped up
on YouTube.
Yeah. Was it the black shirt? Was that the ad I was in?
I probably.
Hell yeah, man. Because
it was like, I've seen the black shirts, like those are like, and I was like, man, why didn't we get black shirts? And I was like, oh, because white looks better when they're dirty.
Those black shirts are real nice, high quality too. They're, there's some benefits of Class 001.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, you were fitted pretty nice there. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. And then I saw white shirts and I was like, this is lame.
Yeah.
No, so I saw an ad for it and I was like, oh man, I've always wanted to test myself, like not go into the army, but do the whole boot camp thing and see where I was at. And then I called about it. I signed up and then I was like, oh, it's 12 grand. And I was like, cool, I'm not going to sign up right now, but I was like, I still want to do this, but I'm not going to do it right now because I wasn't ready for that, like at the moment. And that was in April, in the beginning of the year, last year. And I think I was going to hit April's class was like a goal.
Yeah.
And then I ended up hitting June's class. So not too much far off, but, and then I talked to Ray, one of the instructors, and then Ray was like, this isn't just like a, let's see if you can handle it. This is like a brotherhood. This is a lot of other things. This is more than just seeing if you can tough something out.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my part of my life, I was like really kind of like, I was fucking going crazy. I was like, man, I'm better than this. I'm better than how I'm acting. I'm better than who I am. Like there's more to this world. And it was almost like I was trying to level up and couldn't, and didn't know how and had no guide. So I was like, all right, I need something to fucking kick my ass. And this does everything. So I'm like, let's go, let's do the project. And I graduated and it did. And it keeps changing still. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
It is, man. It really is. I had a very similar experience. It was like, I did all the things that I was supposed to do academically. I went and did the undergrad and the graduate school. I did the traveling consultant thing, was making great money, doing all this other stuff. But then I was like fat and unhappy and frustrated and didn't know who I was and put on a persona of this like supply chain management business intellectual, as opposed to being like truly authentic to who I was, which I had lost along the way. And it's exactly what I needed. Perspective. I needed to go get my ass kicked to just sit there with myself and be like, you're capable of so much more. Why don't you pick up the pen and start authoring your life in a more meaningful way? And why don't you take this advice from others and be less ego driven, and, pivot a little bit in your life. And it's been great for me 3 years later. I mean, I'm sticking up, I think it's 3 years. Yeah. 3 years in July.
Yeah. I can't even think of you fat and unhappy. You're just like not fat and you're so happy. So I'm just
dude, I tell you what, I was poolside. I was filmed. I've been going real hard in the gym for the last 2 weeks since I've been back. Cause I was hanging out with you poolside and I'm definitely not, I wouldn't call myself like overweight, but like, being around dudes with freaking that are just built like you and Ray and a bunch of the other Aaron, standing around Aaron is just, it makes you feel like you're eating too many carbs.
It makes, every time I eat carbs or something like that, or just do something weird, like nutrition wise, I think of Aaron and I'm like, God damn it.
I know. Exactly.
That guy.
Exactly.
But like standing next to him, I wasn't half bad. So I was like, okay, it's just like, you could be in the perfect shape, but I think you'd be like, fuck Aaron.
Yeah, no, for sure. But back to the project though, man. It is one of those things that is you get out of it what you put into it.
100%.
If you really want to level up, there are people at every single level in life, all the way up to what I would consider like Bedros toward the top of that thing. So we're extremely successful entrepreneur who put the whole program together, who suffered himself and who's been through so much himself. But then, leaning on just the guys who have gone through that have built successful businesses or have worked through divorces or have, parented children through difficult times. Like it's all there. It's all available. So like, if you're listening and you're a guy and you're not in a group of some kind of camaraderie, some kind of thing, you need to go find that. Because I think there's a lot of people mentally atrophying about what's capable in their life if they're not
Yeah.
doing those sorts of things.
And it's true. And I think like it also goes back to what I said about ethics too. And that group having like we have the creed, and you have to understand like that's something that you uphold. Like it's a point of ethics that like you look at and you hold yourself by that standard, and then you hold other men, especially in the group, of that standard. So now you have this group that you explain that everybody should have, and then you have like a moral ethic and a hierarchy about it to be a good man, a father, a husband, and and in your job and fitness and all that, and to be able to have other people hold you accountable for that thing. There's so many avenues, there's so many branches to that one tree that it needs to have. I don't think you just have like a guys group. I mean, that's why they have motorcycle clubs. Like,
Yeah.
but look at those. Like, they don't put themselves at a higher standard in their regard I just talked about. And maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not a motorcycle guy, but like it doesn't look like it from everything that there is, and that's fine. But they have their group, so it just depends what you want. But I think a group helps.
Well, speaking of group, I got one last little area I wanted to touch on before we part ways today, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Dude, I am so fired up to come down to Vegas. I think it's in September. We're going to ADCC, Abu Dhabi Combat Club. It's like the Super Bowl of Jiu-Jitsu in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yeah, I think it's September. And we've got great seats. I got a couple of good friends from Boise that are going to come with us to hang out there in Vegas for a few days, man. What got you into jiu-jitsu? That's what I want to know. I don't think I ever asked you that.
Really?
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to do jiu-jitsu and like some kind of martial arts, but it's so weird because like I feel like people made fun of it in a weird path like a long time ago. And then I was like, yeah.
Well, it's funny. The point of reference a lot of my friends have is like Legos, like had that whole like spin jitsu or spin, like, and it was like very cartoonized and whatever. So like jitsu just kind of sounds like martial arts. It's just like a way of calling everything karate. So it's like, I think that's where I can relate to.
Yeah, it's like weird. Like you don't think of it. You're like jujitsu, I guess whatever. Yeah, like okay, cool. But so Claude was teaching dance, okay, and she had a friend of hers, Victoria Gracie, come to her class, and Claude's danced with Victoria, and Victoria is Hiran's wife, right? So Hiran Gracie, or Hiran Gracie, or the non-Portuguese speaking.
Yeah.
So
depends if you pronounce like R's or whatever or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to do the best I can, but so she comes to class, and then this other guy, his name is Evandro Nunes, and he is a black belt with Hiran as well, and they're like best friends. So this tall Brazilian guy comes to class with her, and I was like, who the fuck is this massive? It wasn't just like his body. He was massive. His spirit. It was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, it was crazy. So I sat next to him, and he was talking to me about jiu-jitsu, and I was like, yeah, I thought about it. And I've been thinking about it more because Claude told me that her friend was Victoria Gracie. And I was like, you know who that is? That's crazy. And then he's like, it was a Thursday night, and he goes, come Saturday morning class. Try it out. And I was like, okay, Claude, we're going to go to jiu-jitsu and try out jiu-jitsu. And I showed up, and he was like, I had a text ready for you because I knew you were going to show up. I knew it. And then it's been on from there. I have not stopped. I mean, except for there's a little bit here and there in COVID, the little weird hiccups, but basically I haven't stopped. And like, it was at one day a week. Yeah. And then it was 2 days a week. And now it's like 4 or 5 days a week. And Claude has been doing it for a long time. So yeah. And it's just like, it's my life now. It's literally a part of my life. I live with my family and working out and jiu-jitsu.
It's funny. It's funny the way that just kind of like seeps in and becomes more and more of what you build things around. Like I originally thought jiu-jitsu was a thing that I did. And the more that I've done it, like 6.5 years now, the more that it's the lens in which I see the world. is through JiuJitsu. And it's a beautiful thing, man, when you become something different because of something you do.
It's true. And I got to say something funny because Claude will always talk shit and she'll go, because of that mentality, as you rank up in the belts, like you change, you have to be able to be comfortable in this chaos situation of somebody attacking you. But,
Yeah.
and then you become like just this different person, and the black belts are usually a lot more chill. They don't care. Like they're like, man, whatever. And that bleeds into their life. So Claude will always talk shit to me. She'll be like, you're like a blue belt. Okay. And I'm a black belt mentally or whatever. Like you you get angry. And I was like, what
dude,
she'll throw it in there. I'll say something, she'll be like, black belt. Maybe it's because you're not a black belt. And I was like, she's such a jerk.
Dude, I absolutely love that, man. Hey, let's put a pin on it until next time. Noah Valinsky, my man, thank you for spending some time with me on the Jake Blanchard podcast. Best place to find you. I know you got a very robust social media following, but where do people typically go?
You just go to my Instagram. There's a lot of information in my bio there. It's Noah Poppy, NOAHPAPI. Poppy, it means daddy.
Poppy means daddy. Yeah. And I'll throw that Instagram handle in the comments of the podcast, my man. What a pleasure to get to share the morning and get a laugh in with you, as well as talk about some inspiring and important shit about life, my man. And it's always a pleasure to see you, and appreciated getting a chance to hang with you about 3 weeks ago in Vegas. So hey Claude, what's up?
Hi.
Just here the whole time.
It's good to see you, and we'll get that scheduled here in the next couple months, and we'll have Claude on the show as well, man. I absolutely looking forward to that too. But hey, man, appreciate your time, and
thank you.
Take care, brother.
All right, man, I'll see you soon. Bye.